Hi, everybody, and welcome to Metaphysical Insights. I'm twisting my words to start out. This could be interesting. Um, Thank you for joining us, and I would like to introduce my very special guest, Ankhasha Amenti. Ankhasha is one of the more lovely people you're going to find in the world, both heart, soul, and in every way possible, and is an incredibly talented medium. Um, One of the tiny number I recommend people to, and she's working on a book that we're going to talk about, and it's just so many other things. If you have questions, you can put them in the comment area, and I have the magic power. I can hit a button and they show up, and we can try to answer them. And welcome, Ankasha.
Well, thank you so much, William, for having me today. It's been great to know you for all the years that I've known you, and I hope that we'll be meeting more like this too in the future.
Thank you. I do too. And I think we will.
Yep.
So, before we get started on much else, um, I'd like to talk about your book that's coming out
Okay.
and what's going on with it, what the process is,
Mhm.
when it's going to be out, what it's about.
Mhm.
I know this is a really important piece for you.
It is. I always thought that I would hope one day to write a book about my journey, about the things that had happened to me, about the psychic world, mediumship itself, all the interesting people I've met and done readings for. But that's not the book that I ended up writing. As I think it was John Lennon said, life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans.
Uh-huh.
And I found that's really true in my own life. So a few years ago, actually 4 years ago, my beautiful 34-year-old daughter took her own life. And that was something that I never thought would happen. She was not the typical person to do that. And it was shocking for myself and for my husband and all the family members. And all of her friends were actually shocked too. And I found that many people believe that because we have a connection to the spirit world as mediums, or even just people that believe in the spirit world, that that we would somehow have some special ability to escape the things that happen in life.
Hmm.
Especially somehow they think we can escape death, which is something that we none of us have been able to figure out how to do yet.
Right.
And it was such a shocking experience that I started keeping really important notes about everything that happened. And my daughter did make immediate connections with me
Hmm.
and taught me so much through not only her life, but her death, and continues to teach me on a regular basis. And I wanted to write a book that would share those insights.
Hmm.
I'm not sure that I can ever write a book that will tell people exactly what things are like on the other side. I don't think anyone really will, although a lot of people have ideas about it.
Right.
But the most important thing is to be able to share um, my journey and her journey and what brought her to that point, and how I've dealt with it, hopefully so that people who are here, who are dealing with the loss of anyone for any reason, but especially for suicide loss,
Hmm.
will be able to be comforted and know that they can have hope that they will see their loved one again.
Excellent. Is there any part of that journey, that progress, that those messages that she's teaching you that you're comfortable sharing now, or do, should people wait and read the book? Or um, I don't want to delve deeper than you want to go at this point.
Oh, no, sure, sure.
Mhm.
Well, you know, a big piece of it was that I right before, I'd say about a year or so before, this happened, I started feeling like death itself was walking right next to me all the time, and I had a feeling that maybe it was my own death,
Mhm.
and it didn't really frighten me, it just concerned me that I wasn't quite prepared in all the things I needed to be prepared for.
Mhm.
So I'd never really felt that before. I knew what death felt like. I'd experienced death. I've worked with hospice. I've been around people who've passed. And of course, that's all I do is really work with people who are in the grief process. And so when this happened, I thought, well, I need to kind of get some things in order here.
Right.
And I started working on that. And then all of a sudden, it happened and it wasn't my death, it was hers that was hovering so close to me. So it became, it was such a shock, and also the layer of having her die through suicide added so much to my grief because
Right.
with suicide, there's always those questions of, did I not do enough? Did I do something or miss something that caused this to happen? Was I was I doing something? Was I not there for her at that perfect moment that would have stopped it? What did I not see? And when you're a psychic medium and your job is kind of about seeing things that are going
Right.
to happen or are happening in someone's life, to never perceive that really layered guilt on top of me. And I started to think how much more the guilt must feel and the pain and the anguish must feel for people who either don't have those abilities or they don't have a belief in the afterlife. They're not sure. They don't have any evidence that there is something beyond this. And I started meeting people because I would go to support groups where there were other people who had lost their children, their parents, their brothers, sisters, husbands, and wives to suicide. And I found they all had the same questions. They all had that same feeling of not just the pain of the loss, but how it happened.
Right.
So I endeavored that I would do my best to not only to dig up perhaps why it had happened with her, although even when I found those answers, it I don't think it could have changed anything, and that was a huge piece for me. That's one of the layers of the book is something that probably a lot of people don't even try and wrap their heads around at certain times is how much of our life really can we change? How much of our path, even though we can't see it all the time, is something that we've chosen, that our soul has chosen.
Right.
That's a huge challenging message to deal with and to think about. Right?
Yeah. It is.
Mhm,
I agree with you.
mhm,
And I think it's something that's really important for people to think about.
mhm,
Um, I've worked with people who have crossed over on their own hands,
mhm,
and every one of the ones that I've contacted have been full of joy
mhm.
and freedom and acknowledgement that it was the right thing, the right time.
Yes.
It was their time.
Mhm,
Now, you have your own conversations with your daughter.
mhm.
That's different. But um, I know my own thoughts have changed quite a bit, and there is no punishment. There's no
Right.
guilt. There's nothing that we should be, feeling that they're having to deal with.
Mhm,
Um, because of the method of death, and I found that very freeing
mhm. Yeah.
because I've known a lot of people who have lost people this way,
Mhm,
and I don't think I have, not directly,
mhm,
indirectly, but, people that have deliberately stopped taking medication and such
mhm.
because it was just too hard.
Sure.
But, um, yeah,
You
What?
know, one of the things I found too is that I I looked at my past experiences for many, many years of doing this work, and there's one thing that stood out in my mind, and it had always stuck with me, and this happened probably, um, I would say 20 years ago at least.
Mhm.
I was very heavily involved for many years in the paranormal and enjoyed it and had some really fascinating experiences. But about that time, things were starting to become more and more, um, that this type of work was leaning much more to the paranormal. And I had had a session with someone who came to me who asked me in in a 1 hour session to tell them how to become a medium. And I was kind of shocked because nobody had ever asked me how to do it in an hour.
Right.
And after talking with them for a short period of time, they basically felt that they had ability, and they also had a connection with someone in the film industry, and they wanted to be able to do this work on film. They'd never done a reading before at all. So there's a lot of that story that goes along with it, but we won't talk about it because I'm not going to necessarily um, um, bring someone's name out or any
Right.
identifying characteristics about them. But
Right.
a while later, it was probably within a year, I actually wasn't really watching it much, but there was some show out, and I honestly can't remember the show. But they had a psychic go to a place, and they'd had ghost people go and do investigations and EVPs and all of that. And it turned out that this woman's son, the one on television, had passed from suicide. And I really wasn't paying much attention to it. And all of a sudden I heard this voice, and I thought, I recognized that woman's voice. And I turned to the TV, and surprisingly enough, I saw the name, and it was her. I didn't see her. It was just kind of a call in of her saying something, or her voiceover, I guess you'd
Mhm.
say. And she said, I've discovered that your son is trapped in a dark, horrible place. And he has to be there to pay for this terrible sin of killing himself. And it's dark and it's awful. And that's why you're having these demons or whatever it is that was happening in her home, or that they perceived was happening in her home. And I thought, my heart just was crushed. And I,
Right.
at that time, had not experienced anyone in my life personally. I'd had clients, but no
Mhm.
one of my own personal experience to have someone take their own life. And I thought, oh, this poor woman. How could she hear that? Like, this is her fault. Not only is this your fault that this happened, but you're having these horrible things happen, and they're going to be there until your son works his way out of this tormenting place, and your child that you've lost is now being tormented on the other side for something. And I thought, how could people think that?
Right.
And strangely enough, I found that that was somewhat of a prevalent thought, in some circles in the paranormal. And I think that happens because people allow their religious beliefs and backgrounds, even if they say they don't, it
Right.
seeps in.
Right. And even non-practicing Christians, we're such a puritanical society, the way we were found, that resonates our culture.
Absolutely. That's
Mhm.
right. That's right. And so we take those uh, old things that have been embedded in us, even just through the culture, right? Even
Right.
just in through society, and
Mhm.
has said, "Oh, this is it. This is the ultimate sin, and you will be forever separated from God." Uh, and which is a whole nother discussion, right? About how God can't possibly, if there is, we like to think of God in one way, right? But
Mhm.
it cannot possibly put the entire concept of God into a box. It can't
Right.
be. I have a
Right.
little box in my reading room, and it's it's got a nice, beautiful latch on it, and you open it up, and it says on it, it's embellished on there about, God. And I tell people to open it up, and it's completely empty. And I'm like, we put God in a box, right? But
Right.
anyway, that's for another show sometime.
Okay.
But that's what happened. Is I just that made such a huge impression on me, was that here was this person who not only really had marginal ability, I would say, but was saying things that were hurting people and putting
A-
people in more pain.
And weren't true.
Right. Right. So
Yes.
I I found, even after this happened to me, probably I received a lot of strange messages, after this happened. People, I think, don't know what to say, and so sometimes
Right.
don't say anything,
Mhm.
um, especially when there's a suicide loss. But I try and give people in the book things that they can say, things that they can do, and also just talk about what the people are going through who are having this kind of loss,
Right.
and how to help them.
Okay, that's good. That's a really important thing.
Right.
And, even the Catholic Church is wised up about this. Um, I'm not completely happy with all of what they do with it, but they've taken it away from the realm of sin
Hmm.
and out of the realm of unredeemable, and they classify it as illness
Hmm.
instead, which I don't know.
Hmm.
From a spiritual, metaphysical point, I don't agree with that either.
Hmm.
But at least they've gotten to the point where they're not saying somebody's going to be punished.
Right. Right.
There's an explanation and understanding and the beauty and love, and
Mhm.
it's okay in the end.
Yes.
You are going to see your loved one in heaven,
Right.
whatever that vision is for those believers.
Yeah.
And um, the rest of society needs to catch up a bit.
Absolutely. It's,
Yeah.
I think, um, the message that I had received was so hurtful, of someone who thought they were being very helpful to me, of just saying, questioning whether my daughter had become a born again Christian, because if she hadn't, she would burn in hell. I
Oh no.
thought, thank you, no, thank you. I mean, I was just like,
Right.
what? It astounded me that someone would think that would be a question, an appropriate question to ask someone, regardless of what their belief system was. Um, but many things happened that showed me that she was surrounded in love, and that
Mhm.
she has had so many messages and so many signs. That's another thing that's been fascinating, is signs, getting signs from your loved ones. And I thought, I knew about that. I talked about it. I taught about it. But
Mhm.
I would have it happen with different people in my life. But until it started happening with my daughter in such profound ways, that I can't even explain how astounding the signs have been. And then I realized, I want to help people and encourage them to look for those signs and to take comfort from those signs.
Excellent. Excellent. That's part of why I value you and what you do, your work, is because you're there really working to make help people understand, and not put out placebos to make them feel better,
Mhm.
but to give them truth that helps put everything into perspective and make a complete picture, which does help feel better
Yes.
because you're helping them to see the truth,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yes.
Uh, And I value that. How, this is a little different. How can, when you're talking to her, Let me backtrack a bit.
Mhm,
Sometimes when I'm talking to my parents, I'll get them that is truly on the other side. Sometimes it's their energy that's left here,
mhm,
and sometimes it's a little difficult for me to know what are my tapes of growing up their kid
mhm,
in my mind and what is really them coming through.
mhm,
Because it's me, it's personal, it's reading for clients, it's different.
mhm,
Reading and seeing this for myself sometimes it's a little bit more difficult.
mhm.
How do you determine that? And because I know you do, I know that what you are hearing from her and seeing from her is real and from her.
Mhm.
But how have you really, I don't want to say gotten there, but how do you, what is your, how do you tell?
How do I tell whether something that I hear from her is my, like, expectation or
Mhm.
yeah. I think that's important, to know. I think that, we have to have an awareness constantly of what we're expecting to hear from our loved ones, and then hearing things that may be different than that.
Right.
Maybe a little jolting sometimes, and she has given me some of those jolts plenty of times.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
Absolutely. And what I do is I also try and when those happen, I try and take them in and really see how they have meaning for my life and what they do to make me think. And
Okay.
she was always the kind of person who could say something with absolute truth, with just, she would blurt out something. And many times, what she would blurt out would be outrageous, would be hysterically funny, and would be something that I could never, in my mind, come up with. And so I always know when I hear those kind of things
Right.
that it's absolutely her,
Right.
because it's not just some little phrase that I've heard her say a
Hmm.
million times. It's a way, it's a pattern, right? So that if I called someone up that knew me very well and I tried to disguise my voice, but I was saying things and joking around in such a way that they would know it was me.
Right.
Uh, and that's, I think, what happens on the other side is sometimes we hear things, and sure, it's maybe what we want to hear of I love you, or it's going to be okay, or however, whatever pattern our parents might, and our family members might have set for us.
Hmm.
But when I hear something that is kind of out of the blue, non expected, I'm not sitting there meditating, trying to connect with her, putting myself into a state. I can be doing anything in the world that
Hmm.
is, I mean, there are so many times that she has said things that are so outrageous and that um, that I have to laugh. I laugh out loud, and it happens with
Hmm.
my husband too. She will say, and my husband's he's got a good sense of humor, but it's very different than what my daughter's was. I should preface too that when people read the book, um, we found an enormous amount of writing. She was kind of a writer. In fact, right before her death, we had shown some of her writings to people that she had done publicly, and they were like, she needs to be published.
Right.
Well, and we had told her that, and she was very encouraged by that. And she said, I think I'm going to pursue my writing more. And that was just a few days before she died. So she was looking very forward to her life. And there
Right.
were a lot of things that happened that caused her to kind of go off the rails for that period. That's another lesson that she taught me, and I could see throughout our life, is that we walk along our path, whatever that might be, and we
Hmm.
see all these little doors that open up in front of us, and they can take us all these different directions. We can't always see where they're taking us.
Right.
Sometimes we have to really stop. I think there's a part of us in everyone that wants to just jump through the doors. and
Mhm.
and do something that someone tells us to do, or go along with something just because, and we don't take a moment to consider, where will this take us? I think if we're fearful, that's not a good thing. I don't think we should be
Right.
fearful of making decisions, but I think we need to be contemplative and we need to be careful, because some of the things she did, the choices she made, um, took her into a direction that put her, and she became vulnerable to doing something impulsive. So
Okay.
I talk about that in the book too. Um,
Okay.
I don't think if she was doing those things that she probably would have made the choice she made. But in the grand scheme of things, there's 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 fate too,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
We like to think this is a world that's so different. We like to think that we are in control of everything, right? And
Right.
especially, we're powerful. We can, and I mean we as a society, especially, honestly, I think in the United States, we have this I'm powerful. I can choose everything that's happening. If I do this, this is going to happen. If I do this, I'm going to manifest this. And
Right.
sometimes that's not the plan.
Exactly. And I think people really beat themselves up sometimes because we've got such a strong culture going now of you manifest
Right.
what's around you. You put it out there, you believe enough, and it will happen. So
Sure.
if it's not, it's your fault for not doing this enough.
Right.
And that's something I think about sometimes in my own life is, what if, what out? And I think it does a lot of damage, I think, psychologically to people.
I think
Um,
great.
yeah.
Yeah, I found that for a period of time, people were coming to me and saying, and I still do occasionally, but it was a window of time where a lot of that happened, where people were saying, "I I have this is my plan, this is my path, this is my roadmap. I have a vision board, and it's all these things, and this is going to happen in my life." And I'm thinking, good, check in with me in a few years and let's see. And
Right.
I don't mean that in a sarcastic or a negative way. It's
Mhm.
just we can do that. We can. I think. Um, my mind is not working on this right properly, but it is that John Lennon quote, right? Of life
Mhm.
is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans.
Right.
Sometimes life has a different pathway for you, and you have to come to a point in your life of acceptance of that. And I've had to. I don't
Right.
always like it. I don't always think, well, wait a minute, what did I do? And I go through some of that process in the book too, of
Right.
that feeling that
Mhm.
this brought me to. But I will say, out of all the pain and the things that have happened because of this, it has also brought me to a new awareness of the importance of life now,
Mhm.
and the importance of connections, which is what the book is really about.
Okay.
Connections.
I like that. That's beautiful. Yeah. Um, when is it gonna be out? How are people gonna get it?
It will be on Amazon first,
Okay.
and it will be announced on my website, Ankhasha.com.
Okay.
And the plan is for June 1st. I will have more of an update in about 2 weeks. And I'd
Okay.
love to give that to everyone.
Great. And I just put the email, your, website out. Did I get it right?
You did. That's wonderful.
Yay.
Thank you. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I do tell people to make sure, if they're going to find me on the internet, put in Ankhasha, Ankhasha. If you misspell it, I don't even want to tell you the website that you end up going to.
Oh, no.
Not a good one. Not a good one.
Definitely not yours.
Not mine. Not mine. No.
Oh, excellent. Um, Just sort of changing gears here a little bit, unless you've got any more you'd like to add about the book in
Uh,
this process.
no, that's it
Okay.
for now.
Um, we're living in a rather interesting time,
Mhm,
to say the least. And part of what I look at is okay, there you've got a universal awareness, a consciousness. I don't have good words for it, they all sound cliche.
mhm,
We've got um, things happening on this planet, war, just a new one that
mhm,
could go into World War III easily.
mhm,
Some people say it has. Um, our own, how much does our what we do affect or not affect? Um, not just on the global level, but the universal level. The
mhm,
um, and I'm curious. I know you and I have talked about this before, and we're pretty much on the same page. But um, for listeners, viewers, what do you think? I mean, how do you think we can affect things? And if we're not that effective, do we go ahead and do what's we think is right anyway? And am I making any sense, or is my ADHD off this way?
I'm tracking with you
Okay, great.
because there's my mind too that
Okay,
way.
good.
But so are you in reference to anything particular, or just about the universe? Because I mean, really, I there is a I think that we think somehow that we can change everyone else around us.
Right,
And it really, to me, comes down to an individual awareness and an individual change. So when I look at all the cultures that have all the um, important stories about things that are very similar to the rapture
right.
in biblical terms,
Hmm.
I think everyone's looking for that day and that time, whether they're a believer or non-believer or whatever, where the whole world will shift and change
Right.
all one day.
Hmm.
You know, you're going to things are going to happen, and boom. And whether you think it's going to happen, where all the quote bad people, which is such a concept of bad and good, but another show, uh,
Right.
is that we've got a lot of shows, William. We're going to
Exactly. Exactly.
we could just be like, but is there, you know, is that day going to come? And because every culture has kind of a story of that,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
And is that going to happen? Or is that more of a an example, I guess, an allegory of where we want to take ourselves, where we want to take the world, where we will, if we each individually change and come to a realization that what we're doing is not working,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
Because if there's so much pain going on in the world, will that day ever come where there's no pain? Will that day ever come where there's no suffering? Will that day ever come where there's no injustice? I'm not certain that will happen. I think the story and the reason why we're here is to come to that place in our own lives where we're not contributing to the pain of the world anymore. And
Okay.
that if pain does happen, we use it as a way, as a kind of a springboard to care, to connect, to help
Right.
other people. Wouldn't it be wonderful if it was all gone tomorrow?
Mhm.
I'm not sure that will happen because what I see in the world is a lot of division.
Right.
You know, and it's not just this country; it's everywhere, and it's been a story for hundreds of thousands of years, right?
As far back as we can look
It's
in the prehistoric record even.
Right,
Yes,
exactly, is we have one story, and our story is the only story, and that
right.
makes us better than someone else.
Yes,
And so we can do these things in the name of our God, but you can't.
exactly.
Right? And yet it's very hard to not be drawn in to everything. So to me, I try not to get too drawn into a position where it puts me in anger,
Hmm.
where it can put me more into how can I help? How can I reach out in compassion? What can I do to help people that are suffering? As
Yeah,
opposed to how can I become so angry that I will force someone, force my position down the throat of someone else.
right.
Um, I've been there. I've been in that position. It's very easy to get drawn into it. But for me, I think there's a way to make change that comes from um, a deeper level, and I hope that's what I always try and connect to.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, I'm thinking with Ukraine in particular,
mhm,
because that does put us even a little bit closer to possible nuclear
mhm,
action or whatever. And
mhm.
I don't know. I'm not sure, but what there isn't um, a path, a cycle that species then the planet has to renew itself,
Right.
and species end and
Mhm.
things change, and then
Yeah,
after a while things start up again.
right.
Um, and I'm okay with that actually.
Mhm.
Um, but that doesn't mean also I think it's still important to do the work that is good, even though on a cosmic level, um, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
It just doesn't matter as from what I've been receiving.
Mhm. Mhm.
But on a human level, on a planetary level,
Yeah.
we still need to do what we can do. Um, Partly it gives us hope,
Mhm.
but also partly I think it does make life around a little better in general. And I'm oversimplifying.
Mhm. No,
It's hard to describe this.
right. I think there is, more than anything, people want peace in their
Yes.
um, and I think the only way we will find peace in the world, peace in our own is to find peace in our own hearts and selves. And
Yes.
is that's our job. Nobody can
Right.
do that. I can't do it for you. You can't do it for me. We can't do it for anyone else. They may spend the rest of their life, in turmoil, and it's easy to do with all the
Mhm.
pressures of the world.
It is. And I
Mhm,
think part of it has to do with letting go and
mhm.
just realizing, okay, it didn't go the way I wanted it to.
Right.
Let it go.
Mhm,
The world isn't what I wanted. I didn't retire the way I wanted,
mhm.
whatever. Let it
Right.
go. Learn something,
Yeah, yeah.
and let it go and move on. And I don't mean just be rudderless boat necessarily drifting,
Mhm.
but being okay with we can't control everything and we're
Right.
human and those around us are human.
We can be the boat that, you can, if you've ever been out on a boat and you've had this day of the sun glistening on the water, and you can run your hands into the water and watch the fish jump around you, or see the horizon. Uh,
Hmm.
it's that is to me, we may lose our rudders, right? Um, or we may not have control. There may be a storm,
Hmm.
and the boat may get capsized and we could drown. It's not what we plan. It's not what we necessarily want when we set out on our journey, but there's this great beauty in experiencing what we experience, whatever we experience, and experience in its fullness. And I think
Right.
that is something that um, has been really coming through strongly for the last few years, specifically with me, is that I will continue to stay connected to people. I
Mhm.
will enjoy the experience of, my friendship with you, uh,
Right,
with the people that I know, the people that I stay connected with, and that's most important to me out of
right.
this. It really is, and that's the direction that I'm heading. A lot of people would say, "Well, you should head in this, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this." And I feel like I've come to a point in my life where I'm just enjoying life.
Right,
And as much as I didn't plan this for my life at all, I didn't plan to end up with the loss of my daughter. I didn't
mhm,
plan to end up with, some physical infirmities I may have,
mhm,
but they are what they are. And to me, it just reminds me, like you were talking about, life keeps moving and changing and giving new life. Every time one of us is gone, new life comes, right?
right.
And that to me is the that kind of beautiful moment of experiencing it instead
Mm.
of fighting against it, because we really it's useless to fight against.
It is, and it
Right.
just creates more anger and
Yeah.
tension and hostility and, um, at least for me when I do that.
Mhm.
And I don't think that doesn't mean we stand up for what we think is right and stand against what we think is wrong.
Right. Abs
And I don't regret any of the shoe leather I've spent marching.
Mhm. Mhm.
And, will, I'm sure, do it more of it, but try to do it in a way that's a peaceful message, not an angry message,
Right.
as much as possible. And
Right.
I'm human, I'm not gonna beat myself up for, um, not always making the grade. I don't like to even call it failure anymore.
Right.
It's what it is.
Mhm. Right.
Mhm,
Right. Absolutely. We all do that, and we look and we go, "Oh, I could have done that better." Or we try and pretend that we don't address it, right?
mhm,
We keep repeating the same thing. I always look at the things that I did, if I wasn't successful in them, or if they didn't turn out the way I thought they would, or if they hurt someone, or anything that I did that I look back and I regret doing,
mhm.
I just try and learn from it and say, okay, how did I get myself in that situation, and what can I do in the future? And
Right.
it's all about that. We can't all be, you know, transcendent at every moment of our life. It would be nice.
No. Eh
But the more we can, the better.
yeah. I wish I knew a little bit more about what I know now when 40 years ago.
Right.
But, that's okay, that's part of the journey and what it's meant to be, I think, because I really do believe we choose
Mhm.
the lessons in the life when we take on our incarnation.
Yes, yes. My daughter
Yeah.
was real clear about that with me too, is
Mhm,
that we choose the people. I know I used to make a joke of, what was I thinking when I chose the people I was gonna be around in my life? But you realize how much we learn from those.
yes,
If
exactly.
if we if we choose to learn from it, or do we just choose to get into a mode of blame, and, you know, I'm a victim of my history.
Mhm,
Well, everyone is in some sense, but what can we learn from it, and what can we embrace from it?
mhm,
So,
and I'm learning to not take on their energy as
mhm,
much either with that, and
right.
I'm not an empath, I don't mean even that way, it's just I've I'm there to help when people want it,
Mhm,
but if they say one thing and do the other all the time,
mhm,
it's I distance. Um, I don't need it, you
mhm,
know,
mhm,
and it's okay to take care of ourselves these days. It's not
right.
selfish to, not set up barriers, but just break ties where they're not constructive
Sure.
or loving or in a way when they're destructive anyway, put it that way.
Right,
Mhm.
right, right, because it doesn't advance anyone. If I engage with someone who's angry or defensive, and um, they have a choice of how they
Right.
engage with me. I can choose to stop that engagement if I feel like they're not responsive to that. I try and be accepting of people where they are,
Right.
but if they are continually, for some reason, uh, doing something that's not beneficial to my life or to my health, then I would just choose to set the line and set the boundary and say, I just choose not to have you,
Right.
in life. Very few times has that had to happen, but it has had to happen. And it's
Right.
sad, but it's healthy. You have to be able to do that.
Hmm. No, I agree. And sometimes it's just allowing people to fade away from each other.
Hmm.
And it's nothing bad. It's just,
Right.
okay, our lives are taking different paths.
Right.
And we don't have to fight
Mhm.
to hang on. It used to be easy for me anyway, just out of in my own insecurities to try to hang on when it was too late. Or it had already gone its course and it's time to let go.
Mhm.
And it's yeah, it's life is interesting. It really is. It's a fascinating case study.
It is. It's a beautiful, beautiful, powerful, painful, exciting mystery.
It is.
Right?
That also has some great joy in it. And
Absolutely.
you were talking about the boat and the beautiful day and the hand in the water. I've had days.
Mhm.
Oh, I think about it. We had one day I was on a cruise down the Danube, and
Mhm.
we had one day that was just on the water for like 8 or 10 hours. No, after I think 8 hours, I realized with a hairline like mine, I should probably get out of the sun. Um,
I know
but it
that.
was cool, it was a cool day. It wasn't a hot day. I don't like heat.
Mhm.
Um, and there were cold beverages brought, and there was history and beauty all around, and they would tell us what we were seeing, and it was quiet. And I think there were 120 passengers on board the
Mm.
boat, and they were all people who they were interested in history, and they got along, and they were respectful, and
Mhm.
um, it was a magical day of just floating down the river and
Right.
no cares, no responsibilities,
Mhm.
just enjoying. I didn't have to work at making sure I was getting the most out of every moment
Right.
from the history I was seeing or the places I was going. I wasn't feeling like I needed to tune into them and
Mhm.
read them from a more of a metaphysical standpoint
Mhm.
and just enjoying. It was great.
Right. I think about all the things that I will take with me from this life, and the
Mhm.
most important things I'll take with me are the connections with people,
Yes.
right? And I think that, people do say at the end of your life, what do you value? What do you look back on? I'm not going to look back and say, oh, gee, I should have done one more of this. I should have done more of these things. You don't look at that. I think
Mhm.
that's what I'm looking at now, is that the time of life that we get into, I'm at age 67, is you start to realize that you've accumulated um, knowledge, or you've accumulated wisdom through experience.
Right.
And that's what I want to share with people. That's what I try and do with my readings, and I try and do it with my mentorship and with working with people who want to explore different things in their life. Is
Right.
that I can offer that to them more than anything.
Right. I'm 65, and I know just right what you mean. And I didn't, I didn't come professional until,
Mhm.
I don't know, 12, 14 years ago.
Mhm.
And it was life in general and building and working, including working on the spiritual side, the metaphysical side, the mediumship side,
Mhm.
all of those years too. But
Mhm.
you have to allow it to build and to become. something before there's something really to pass on
Mhm.
in a way that's more of a professional way,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Sure.
Anyway,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I listen to myself and say, "Oh, I wonder if anybody understands what I'm talking about," but
They do.
oh well.
They do.
Um, yeah. Um, we've got a little bit more time, but we're getting close to the end.
Mhm.
Ankhasha.com is how to reach you.
Yes.
You're and um, I want to make sure you get out everything that you want to. The book, your own, the work you do, the services you provide,
Mhm.
any readings or any activities you're coming up people might want to go to. Um,
Actually, I'm going to be offering some things, some uh, small group events. I was offering them prior to COVID, and then
uh
we had to stop that. So I'm hoping to reopen them in June, July,
oh,
at the
good.
same time that the book comes out. So they're basically for people who are, who are able to travel and be near me. I'm in Washington State, but those are from people who've been clients with mine before in some way or that I know,
Hmm.
and they're very individualized or not individualized, excuse me, but small group sessions that we do here. It's a program that I've been doing for a number of years, and then I'll also be offering some classes virtually for people too.
Okay,
People will be able to come to regularly. So
wonderful.
yes.
And now that will be on your website.
It will be on my website shortly. I would say be looking for kind of some changes on my website in the next few weeks that we'll
Okay,
talk about that. Hmm.
because I would like to go to some of those events myself.
I'd love to have you come.
I I
So.
think that would be um, magic in all the right ways.
That's great. That's great.
Yes. Oh, great. Um, any other big plans coming up? Anything
Oh, well, I will be, of course, at the Port Gamble Ghost Conference, I know,
good?
coming up in, that's, I think, the first week of November, right?
I think it usually is that first weekend.
Six,
I'll
seven,
have to
eight.
check this year, but yeah.
Yes. And I'll be excited to be there and do a gallery reading there. I love gallery readings. I love the energy of them. Um, I love being able to present from a stage and talk to a large group of people.
Right. And for those of you who have experienced one of Ankasha's gallery readings, go. You don't know what you're missing.
Oh,
It's
thank you.
it's incredible. And the connection she makes, the relationship with the people, the beings that are there, um, you just I can't describe it. It's fabulous. And you need to go.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, I'm excited to see people again in person. It was so great to be at the Oregon Ghost Conference
Hmm.
and see people there. And hopefully next year, everything will be wide open and people will be coming more and more to all of these great events.
Exactly. I hope so too.
Yes.
And I just can't thank you enough for being on the show today.
Well,
Um,
thank you.
it's always a great pleasure to talk to you.
Thank
And um, when you do get the book out,
Mhm.
make sure you send me the links because I want to share them, put them out there,
Oh,
and help you however I can with any of that.
thank
So,
you, William.
oh, you're welcome.
And I hope that people are patient with me because I don't do a lot of social media, as you know. I've kind of built my business without it, and now I'm having to try and navigate it. And I need to have like a 20 something come and live with me so they can just do that for me.
Oh, I do too. My website needs so much work, and I hate touching it, let alone,
I
and
can do it.
yeah. So, any
Oh,
volunteers out there?
that's
Um,
right. William needs somebody.
yes.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
I have
Great.
a hard time even answering things on Facebook or anything like that. So if you do connect with me, connect through my website. That will get directly to me.
Hmm.
It may take me a few days to get back to you, but I always get back to everyone that I can.
Hmm. About how long are you booked out for people for readings?
Right now, except for my regular clients and their people that are with them, it is out to the fall. So,
Okay.
but if you have been a client of mine before in the past, I always leave little slots around my schedule so that I can fit you in.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. And Ankhasha really is incredible out there. I don't refer people because I'm not very trusting of 90% or more of the people out there. Ankhasha is somebody I refer to with great pleasure. So um, definitely reach out and get on the waiting list if you need to.
Okay. Thank
Mhm.
you. Thank you to everyone who's taken their time out of their busy weekend to come and spend time with us today. And I appreciate
Yes.
it. And thank you, William. You're a very gracious host. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you. Thank you so much. And have a great weekend, everybody. And for those watching this later, I hope you enjoy it. Please feel free to share. And oh, this is so sweet.
Oh,
Katie is a wonderful person, a dear
Katie.
friend.
Yes. Thank you. And hello, CJ and TJ and Shar. Sorry.
Yes,
Sorry.
yes.
I got to TJ. That was the name of my husband's old business.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Excellent.
This is initial. Sorry.
Great. Well, thank you again, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.